Hearty good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to all of you to the Economic Times Best Brands 2019. Well, my name is Kavya R. Shavali, and I'm immensely delighted to be in the midst of all you wonderful people, all the best brands under one roof. So on that note, we're about to get started with the fantastic proceedings of the program. Now, one quick look at the agenda, and we know that while the evening is all about felicitations, we also have some very strong content and some very wonderful content that will be coming across to you in the form of deliberations, panel discussions, and presentations. So with that, as we're about to get started, we're talking about the best brands. It's important we get the best amount of energy from the audience, right? So here's what we're going to do. I want all of you to please raise your hands up in the air, everyone. That's right, I know it's a formal evening, but come on, let's bring in that energy. Everybody, all the hands up in the air. And can you shake your hands, everyone? Ooh, we're doing a little jingle a la who, but yeah, keep shaking that right there. And when I ask you if you're having a good time already, you can pull the hands down and say a big yes, all right? So let's do that one more time. Are you all having a good time? Yes. One more time. Are you all having a great time? Yes. Well, it looks like we're all relaxed, all our muscles, all our smiles, everything's relaxed right there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, yes, this is the Best Brands 2019, and it's time to now set the tone for the evening, and I'd now like to invite on stage the business head and the senior vice president with ET Edge. Please put your hands together to welcome on stage Sunita Quadros.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of ET Edge, a very warm welcome to all of you to this fantastic evening. It is indeed my pleasure to be addressing some of the brightest minds of the marketing and branding fraternity. We have all gathered to celebrate and acknowledge and deliberate on the genetics of successful brands at the second edition of the Economic Times Best Brands Coffee Table Book. In today's complex and busy world, brand names are everywhere, plastered all over websites, on railway and metro cars, on the sides of buses, and even in public places. But most of the time, even though they are accepted as part of the scenery, these brands don't signify much to those who observe them. Yet, among the mindless white noise of modern marketing, a few brands stand out, admired and packed with meaning. These brands inspire passion and fierce loyalty among their customers. They represent the gold standard of branding. Measuring any brand's success is always a tricky affair. It is especially so in the contemporary digitized economy, where people increasingly believe in interacting with the brand. This interaction does not occur just before they make a purchase decision, but much after that. Part of this is because customers now have an emotional connect with the products and services that they acquire. Today, while we celebrate efforts that goes into making your brand stand out, I'm also looking forward to the keynote discussions to get a first-hand glimpse into what experts in the industry think about creating an omni-channel success story for their brands. Once again, a very warm welcome to all of you and congratulations on your brand's journey. I wish you all the very best and a very pleasant evening ahead. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sunita. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let me also inform you that while we do have some amazing content that will be flowing in this evening, besides the felicitations that we're all looking forward to, we'd like to especially take a moment to thank Mr. K.V. Sridhar, aka Pops, as we all know him in the industry, who is the founder and the Chief Creative Officer with Hyper Collective. So we'd like to thank him for his support and guidance for this initiative. So just a round of applause to thank the very fantastic Mr. K.V. Sridhar. Thank you very much, sir. Now that brings us to our first speaker, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, it's time for me to introduce, someone who calls himself a very politically incorrect person because he calls himself as a Mufat. That's right, he calls himself as a Mufat. He's also a serial entrepreneur who treats that Mera business was not just business, it was passion, which is why he claims that he hasn't worked a single day. He also claims that he makes the best scrambled eggs, and he thinks it's a challenge. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure you know who I'm talking about. All the eyes are already on him. It's time to put your hands together for the fantastic, the one and only Prahlad Kakar. Woo!
That was a hard act to follow, considering that we are in advertising and the hype comes first, then comes the sizzle, and sometimes you don't even see the steak. So, being a part of a professional advertising animal, as we call them, I've worked on some of the best international brands in India and some of the best brands from India for India. We are still waiting for an Indian brand to take the world, other than individuals like Mr. Modi, Sachin Tendulkar, Amitabh Bachchan, yoga, and so forth and so on, which actually became brands because they grew organically and because of performance. So what is there to learn from these brands how to build your brand? So today is the day of startups. So all of you young people sitting up there with dreams in your eyes and who want to start up their own companies and do whatever you want with whatever you want. And then you make a deck and you go with a deck to a funder and say, I have a great idea. It has possibilities. I have a deck. And here's the deck, and examine it. And what does the funder do? He looks at the deck and he says, is there a possibility of ROI? The great bogeyman. So anybody can join figures together and create an ROI. I'll give you a very small story, which is digressing. But when I wanted to go to the Lakshadweep to start a diving school, everybody thought I was mad. Because in India, nobody dives. And everybody's scared of the water. So he said, why are you going to start a diving school? You're running a perfectly good business in Bombay of making ad films and you're top of the shit pile. And here you want to go off to Lakshadweep and start a diving school. So I went to the government and said, can I start a diving school? And they all looked at this and said, what is a diving school? I said, you go underwater and you look. And they looked at my so-called deck at that time and they realized that I wasn't going to make money for the next 10 years. It was a losing proposition. And they didn't give me permission. Not because they felt bad for me. They couldn't figure out why I wanted to do it if I was losing money for 10 years. And however much I tried to convince them that it was my passion, that it was I wanted to share that experience with the rest of my friends and family and Indians, they won't fly. So finally I went to a smart chartered accountant who said, you want to deal with the government? You want to deal with the babu? Cook your figures. So I said, what is that? So he says, make sure that you show them that you're making obscene amounts of money. So I said, but I'm not. He says, the truth is the first casualty of a deck. So I cooked the figures. I got my permission in exactly 3 months after wasting 3 years. And the rest is history. We are the oldest diving school in the country. We've been running now for 20 years. We made losses for the first 10. We made losses for the first 10. And then we broke even. And now we're fine. But the journey was worth it because it wasn't about ROI. It was about the passion. And it overrules all logic. So if I was a a banker or a fund roller, I would never look at the deck. I would just look at the deck as a possibility. I would look at the person who is presenting the deck. I would look at him and see how much fire in the belly does he have? How much fire in the eyes does he have? How hungry is he? How passionate is he to make his brand into something worthwhile? What is his stamina levels? Where can he take it? When he's going to jump off the ship and sell it? Because now everybody wants to get a valuation and sell it in the first year, if they can. So, the point is that if you cannot put your name to your business, and if you're looking for valuation, it's 1 in 1,000 chance that you will succeed. Because out of all the 1,000 startups that start every day, one actually succeeds, and if you look at it actually properly, it's because of the passion, and because of the commitment, and because of the belief, and the hell with the book, or the deck, whatever you call it. So, what is it that makes brands last? The first 10 years of a brand's life are actually its most important. Most of them don't even last that long. If you can last for 5 years, even taking a hit, with your bottom line completely shriveled and you're still soldiering on, and if you can cross that Rubicon of the first 5 years, believe me, you'll see a light at the end of the tunnel. But it takes a lot of stamina, takes a lot of commitment, takes a lot of belief in yourself to create that brand against everybody's opinion of saying, he'll crash and burn. So if everybody, the whole world thinks that you will crash and burn, that is the challenge. To prove them wrong. Because you believe. And your belief is worth everybody else's lack of it. And that is leadership. That is true leadership. Your belief against everybody else's lack of it. And that is the single most important part of building a brand. When you build a team around you to build the brand, you must imbibe them with the same belief that you believe. It won't be the same. It won't be 100% like yours. But at least get up to 80%. So if your team believes what you believe, nothing in the world can stop you. Nothing. So when a young Sachin Tendulkar from Bandra East started playing from a school and he scored his first century, did he believe? Yes, he did. And he believed all the way through his career. And you know what his reputation was? From all his rivals, from his greatest rivals, including Wani, who he really embarrassed, was that you can never get him out with the same ball twice. If you can get him out on a ball, he'll go back and he'll practice it so that you can never get him out on the same ball twice. So if you're going to get him out, you better rethink everything. So when you think you got it right, that's when you know you got it wrong. So that's what it's really all about. That is why he's such a brand. So today, building a brand is about conversations. It's about interaction. The days of you talking down to your audience like I'm doing to you guys, you all are listening and I'm holding forth, are over. I'm a dinosaur. Half of you switched off. If you don't have headphones, you're listening to something else. If I don't engage you in a conversation of saying, yes, but what about this? What about that? Today, everything is instant. Most of my kids, at least, and I've got 3, starting from 28 to 22, they have the attention span of a fruit fly. Unless it's to do with food and sex. That's when you really have the interest. But everything else is almost 10 seconds of attention. And if you don't engage them in a conversation, if you don't engage them in a debate, in an argument, and don't involve them in that, you've lost them. So remember, if you are going to build brands that last, and if you are going to build brands that will take on the world, other than the ones that have grown organically through individual achievement, then first, you have to have the commitment and the passion and the belief. Second, you have to build a team, which means that you have to be a leader of people. And third, you have to make the team believe against all odds that you will eventually succeed. And only then will you succeed. And forget the ROI. Value comes first. Then comes ROI. If you want to really build a brand that has to last, the only thing that people remember long after you are dead and gone is the value that you created. Nobody remembers the ROI. Nobody remembers the fact that you made obscene amounts of money and died with it and couldn't take it with you. But value, you can sign off on. Value is like a painting. It's like a piece of art. Once you put a signature to it, forever you remember who the architect or the painter was. So that's my Ganti. I told them that, when I start talking, and if I get onto a subject that I really believe in, then time stops. And I have to have a pretty young lady tap me on the shoulder to remind me to come back to earth. So it's earth to Prahlad, come in. So always remember that value comes before money. If you can create the value, you'll create the legs and the stamina for the brand to last. If you only make money, you die without being able to take it with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. It's always a delight to hear to all your wonderful insights, or for that matter, all your experiences that you have to share with us, as always. Thank you once again. I'm going to request you to please remain on the stage. Now I'd like to also invite Sunita Quadros to please join Mr. Prahlad Kakar on the stage as well. And ladies and gentlemen, let me also tell you that it's another very interesting segment of the evening, wherein we shall be unveiling, it's a soft launch, the unveiling of the cover of the Economic Times Best Brands 2019 Coffee Table Book. So I'd like to give this clicker to Prahlad, sir, so that he can do the honors.
Are we going to unveil the lady? That's what they're all waiting for.
Yes, sir. There you go. You want to stop, click there. Let me tell you that this is the soft launch of the cover of the Coffee Table Book 2019 that will also feature some of the esteemed brands that are present over here. So can we have one more round of applause? Thoda sa lull sa ho gaya yahan pe. Just another round of applause there. Thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed. I request you to please take your seats.
I just ask in the brand thing, who is right on top of the best Indian brands? And I was told it was Amul. And remember, Amul is the product of two great men's visions which came together. Tribhuvan Das Patel, Dr. Kurian. Forever.
And with that, it's now time to invite our next speaker, who has in fact been awarded many times in his career the title of Best CEO, Best Brand Builder for leadership, for turnaround, etc. and he currently is the Group Executive President at Aditya Birla Group for Strategy and Business Development. He was also earlier the CEO for PepsiCo for 4 years, and before that with Nokia as the CEO for India and later the emerging markets for nearly a decade. Ladies and gentlemen, we have the presence of none other than Mr. D. Shivakumar. So please put your hands together to welcome on stage Mr. D. Shivakumar. Welcome, sir.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and it's an absolute pleasure to be here. Thank you, E.T., for inviting me, but more specifically, Sridhar, or Pops, as we know him. He's the guy who called me or wrote to me and said, hey, Shiv, I think you should do this. So I could not say no to him because, we've been friends for a long time, plus he's on the board of ASCII along with me. So we have to do one good turn to each other. It's always a pleasure to follow Prahlad, somebody I've admired from the outside. We did a few films together, but not too many, when I was a brand manager. But somebody who's an absolute icon in terms of producing some of the best films, definitely for the companies that I have worked. Okay, first up, warning, I don't know what India's best brands are. First thing. I asked Priyanka of Economic Times, like, are you going to tell me? She said no. So my speech is blind, okay, absolute blind. So I'm going to tell you what I think best brands should do. And there might be absolutely no correlation between what I say and what the list will be. Okay, there might be completely two different things, but don't worry about that. The first thing I want to say is we live in a world where we adore brands. We have too many brand lists, not one or two. We have too many brand lists. We have a brand list called trusted brands, cool brands, hot brands, growth brands, most valuable brands, innovative brands, best brands. You think of the adjective and we have a list. Okay, now I don't know how ET is going to justify it because 2 weeks ago they released most trusted brands. They had a list of 100. And today they're going to release a coffee table book saying best brands. I really hope there's a fit between the two lists because otherwise the methodology or who's going to do it itself will be a challenge. Okay, so we have just too many lists. And that itself tells us what the challenge of a brand is. It just tells us how much a brand needs to do. So let me give you all that I have read. For example, if you take what a brand needs to stand for each alphabet, let's take A. A can be authentic, accessible, aspirational. You throw those three words and it has to apply for a brand. Okay? B can stand for bold, brave, and bonding. All three brand words. Okay, advertising agencies, market research agencies for years have measured that. C stands for clarity, consistency, collaboration, and consumer-centric. For every alphabet, I can go on and on. So you can easily have 100 words or more to describe what we need from a brand. However, brands have been the subject of immense scrutiny in the last few decades. Immense scrutiny. They've been scrutinized for quality. They've been scrutinized for regulatory. They've been scrutinized by consumer reports. And they've been scrutinized by consumer courts. And this is not going to stop. My personal submission to you is that this will actually hasten even more in a digital world. 1988 was a watershed year for brands. For the first time, they started getting valued. If you look at FMCG companies, the land, machinery, and plant, the value of that is nothing. The value of the brand is significantly bigger than everything else. If you take somebody like Apple today, the value of the Apple brand is close to $200 billion. That's a lot, not small. Okay, so all brands, their true value is in the value they occupy in the consumer's mind. Their value is not anywhere else. This helped stave off many a merger and acquisition and corporate raider. That's the reason why people valued brands and put it on the balance sheet. Okay, that's what happened in 1988. Next, in India, if you look at it, early brands were built on distribution and retailer recommendation. India has the highest number of retail outlets in the world for any country. We have 15 million retail outlets in the country, of which 10 million are FMCG outlets. So you don't require capital, education, or anything to be in distribution in India. No license also. So all the early brands, if you go back, the 1960s brands, were built on very strong distribution, specifically rural distribution. Quality was a big differentiator then. especially with the arrival of the multinational quality in the 1960s. Okay, that's where it started. And we had a number of quality marks. Very few people will remember that in the 70s and 80s, we had the ISI mark, which was a guarantee of quality. Why did the government do that? Because quality was variable. We needed standards, and we said, if you have the standard, we give you the ISI mark. Okay, so good housekeeping in the US always had that in a different way. Now, when in doubt, when in a crisis, when you don't have a strategy, this is what most people did. Okay, the fifth P of most marketing was personality. Use a celebrity. If you don't know what to do, just use a celebrity. Simplest thing to do. Okay, what happens after that, we'll figure out. So personalities were the fifth P in the Indian brand marketing mix. The other thing which is unique to India and Indian brands is the concept of the MRP. Okay, the whole concept of the PCRO and the MRP is very Indian. Now, this was done by governments from Indira Gandhi downwards to ensure that there was no hoarding of brands and hoarding of commodity. That was the reason. In those days, in the 70s and 80s, I'm told, if you stock more than 3,000 kgs of oil or 3,000 liters of oil, you could be arrested. Okay? And the MRP was a concept by which every housewife knew what the price of the brand was. This ensured that brands actually flourished, and the gap between the MRP and the retailer was tight for all categories. That's one of the reasons that modern trade never succeeded in India, because the MRP has always been there. A lot of the modern trade boys and girls today want MRP removed. I've been on stage and FICCI, etc., where they've been trying to convince Mr. Paswan to remove that. That is the death of brands. Because then suddenly modern trade will stock up high and sell it cheap. And suddenly they'll drive out the ordinary retailer out of the marketplace. So the MRP is the greatest leveler for brands and the best thing for brands. A lot of brands don't recognize that in my book. Okay? So price was MRP. Okay. Now, if you go back 15 years, and I'm talking before the advent of mobility, in 2005, there were less than 80 million subscribers in this country. So if you think about 2004-05, and you ask yourself, what were the categories which were consumed more than once a day? The soap was in the morning, maybe in the evening. Toothpaste was once in the morning. Shampoo was at best once in the morning. And everything else was once in the morning. These were categories which were consumed more than once a day. Chocolates, if they were on your table. Okay, chiclets or mouth fresheners, if they were on your table. Cigarettes, if you had a cigarette break, had 2, 3. Tea or coffee. Okay, maybe a tea bag, whatever it is. These were the categories we used more than once a day. And using more than once a day created some degree of affinity and hopefully some degree of trust. That's what, that's how the equation works. However, just look back now to 15 years, 2019. Let's look at all the categories we use multiple times a day, not just more than once a day. And these are what I call platform brands. Swiggy, multiple times a day. Okay, Uber, multiple times a day. Facebook, most people say that, people are more at Facebook at work than at work, okay? Facebook, Alexa, search engines, Instagram. We use this, WhatsApp. We use this a lot more, and the vehicle is the mobile phone brand. And that's why it's not a surprise that the first technology brand which broke the list in India to be the most trusted brand was Nokia in 2007. Okay, in 2007, when Nokia's user base was about 60, 70 million users. If you look at the global market today, 6 of the top 10 brands are technology brands. There are only 2 FMCG brands, and there are 2 car brands. This list is actually going to go towards technology, whichever way you call it. You call it innovative brand, hot brand, cool brand, best brands. It will gravitate to technology because the number of touch points and consumer touch points for the brand with technology is significantly more than it will be for any other category. So that's something that I'd like to submit to you. So online, offline, we've discussed this a number of times. I classify this whole brand exercise as BD and AD, before digital came in and after digital came in. Okay? And I believe still many categories are not waking up to this digital challenge. Okay? But I think if they don't wake up, then it will be a challenge for the existence of their brands. Now the online world is about personal image first. It's about personal image building. It's about brands that help this image building. And those brands will be seen as cool by consumers. Okay? My justification is all you have to do is look at the first 5 lines in a LinkedIn or a Facebook, or you look at the pictures, etc. It's all about trying to tell the world how cool I am. Okay? And any brand which can help people achieve that will be a cool brand. Okay? Our digital world helps us understand what's right and what's wrong with brands because feedback from real consumers is in real time. It's instantaneous. So if you're doing a successful online reputation management, you should be easily able to check what the affinity is and where your trust levels are. And the more you track it, the easier it is. Okay? Now, the digital world is also forgiving. So let me give you a few examples. Jet Airways is in serious trouble, but that's not stopped us from flying Jet Airways. Kingfisher was in serious trouble. The airline brand doesn't exist anymore. It has had no impact on the Kingfisher beer brand, 0. Facebook has been in trouble. Their brand value dropped 4% at the end of all the trouble. Just 4%, okay? Malaysian Airlines had 2 crashes which they had absolutely no control over. But people have not stopped flying Malaysian. So you are not at the mercy of editors or journalists. Okay, that's the good thing about a post-digital world. The consumer gives you a chance. So a digital world is forgiving of genuine mistakes and issues. They have much wider latitude than a pre-digital world. So I have 5 things to tell you before I step off. Number 1, I've said this. 10 years ago, FMCG brands dominated all brand lists. I believe now technology brands will dominate this list. Okay? I have absolutely no doubt in my mind. This is point number 1 for you from today's session. Point number 2, a brand today needs an ecosystem where the consumer is a significant part of that ecosystem. If the consumer is not part of that ecosystem, then you are hallucinating as a brand. You have to put the consumer at the center of that digital ecosystem that you run. Okay, that's the second. So that means you need a lot more collaboration. Third, the good word of society is absolutely important. Society can make or break you, okay, in a digital world. Point number 4, we've always discussed value, and I think Prahlad touched on value. Value in the past, in a pre-digital world, was a combination of price and quality, very little else. Price, quality. Now let me show you what value means, which is still very important in a digital world. It means a digital business model, which is about price, which is about convenience, which is about speed, which is about recommendation. All. Price transparency is at its highest today in a digital world. MRP was just the first step. Price transparency is at a completely different level right now. So the number of dimensions of value have multiplied thanks to digital. They haven't compressed. So a unidimensional price versus quality has transformed into many more. And finally, I think of this concept. We did this when we were in Levers in 2000 with Mr. Sundaram, who was the CFO then. I talk of a concept called advertising gearing, which is the total brand profit the brand delivers divided by the total advertising spend. So for every 100 rupees of advertising spend, how much profit does that brand deliver? That's a very important measure for you to know, especially if you're running a portfolio, especially if you're running variants. You truly need to know this. And many times, best brands don't factor the financial impact of what brands do. So for me, in summary, I would say the best brands of the future, I don't know the list today, will certainly display 3 things. One is financial. They have to be financially strong. They have to deliver a much better return than industry, much better return than peers in the coming years. That's number 1. Number 2, market power. If they don't have market power, they will not be able to be part of the ecosystem and drive the ecosystem. That's the second thing which is important. And the third is the impact they make in consumers' life. This will define, these 3 things will define in my book, the best brands of the future or whichever list that you want. So, in summary, at the end of 14 minutes, we have too many lists, and that's the challenge of being a brand manager or a brand owner. You have too many multiple contradictory lists to go after. Okay? I don't know what this list is. I classify the whole branding exercise as before digital and after digital. Okay? My submission for the future, it will be technology brands. It will be brands which will have ecosystem and the consumer at the center of the ecosystem. The good word of society will be absolutely crucial. Value means much more than price and quality in a digital world. Okay, that's what I would say. And think of advertising gearing. For every dollar that I spend, how much profit am I going to generate? Because if you don't have that, there is no future. Today, in many industries, the cost of acquisition is much more and can never be recouped. somebody will have to come and write a blank check. Okay, finally, in the real world, there is no space for that. Okay, and I believe that strong brands of the future will have a financial future, will have market power, and will have a significant role in consumers' life. So that's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Thank you very much, sir, for those insightful perspectives for all of us. And on that note, let us continue by inviting our next esteemed speaker, who's a veteran in the telecom industry and is the President Devices and S&D at Reliance Jio Infocom Limited. And he's armed with more than 30 years of prolific experience in the technology industry. Please put your hands together to welcome on stage Mr. Sunil Dutt, President Devices Business, Reliance Jio Infocom. Hello, sir. This is to go to the next slide. All right.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and an absolute pleasure to be here and to be invited here. I've been told about 5 times that I've got 10 minutes, so I'm going to give up about 50 slides that I had to present, and I'm going to stick to 1 page. The good part is that a lot of what I had to speak, has been already set in context by Shiv just before me. So I think that's a great one for me. Thank you, Shiv, for those insights, really. I think when we talk about the makeover and radically transforming existing market conventions, the conventional thinking, so I think that's what I'll be speaking about. And every once in a while, you do have players who will bring in a new technology, who will bring in new business models, they'll bring in new customer experiences, they'll bring in propositions which radically transform the market. And at Jio, we've been doing all of that. And with some of the examples or some of the points that Shiv spoke about, we've been kind of following a whole lot of that. And I can say very proudly that we've been one of those brands that have radically transformed telecom with Jio services, devices, the entire devices industry, as well as the entire digital economy. What have we done differently? What have we achieved? When we look back, last 3 years that we've been operating, first is in terms of the customer experience, the whole consumer experience, whether it was with respect to the speed, the coverage, the consistency of network and the network services. So that's something that we've achieved, and we've achieved that with speed. And one of my friends here was talking to me just now, and he says, you've done it with an amazing amount of speed. Well, yes, we have done that with an amazing amount of speed. We have, in the process, ensured that India, from a mobile broadband data consumption, rose up from a position of 155th country in the world to number 1 country in the world in the span of less than a year. You'd be surprised, before we came in, people are consuming about 400 to 450 MB of data in a month, because that depended upon the kind of speed you were getting. Today on our network, people consume about 11 GB of data in a month. 11 GB. And that's, all of us put together, and I'm talking about all the young people who are consuming in excess of 30, 40, 50, 60, and some of them even 100 GB in a month. What else did we achieve? Before we came in, you'll be surprised to know there were 16,000 different plans that were available to consumers. 16,000. We brought them to less than 10. So as I said, it's about challenging conventional wisdom. It's about challenging conventions. We brought them down to 10. We ensured that in one of those challenges, while we simplified the whole tariff structure, we also made sure that the voice became free for people. Nobody pays for voice when you use a Jio network, anywhere in the country. We brought in some very, very revolutionary products, whether it was to do with the services aspect of Jio, or when you looked at it, when you had about 450 million people in this country who were not connected because they were on a 2G technology using feature phones, but they wouldn't move away from a feature phone because of the form factor. So we said, okay, how do you disrupt? You disrupt by bringing in a phone which has the form factor of a feature phone with all the buttons and a small screen size, but it works on a 4G technology. And you suddenly have people from not only the rural India, but the smaller markets within the big towns who are suddenly moving towards a 4G adoption, and in a very affordable manner. So it's about how do you disrupt, how do you challenge the conventional wisdom, and how do you create something which is so powerful as a proposition for the consumers that they adopt at a rapid pace. Whether it was, bot-based customer query resolutions, proactive network resolution, a whole lot was something that we ended up changing. Even the retail that Shiv was talking about, the millions of retailers, the experience with digital point of sale and creating a differentiator over there, and that's just the beginning. We are still progressing much faster along that path, as well as bringing in all of that and bringing a whole lot of transparency built as a result of that, which provides a whole lot of confidence to the trade, to the customers who are dealing with their trade partners. I think the best measure is how consumers adopt you. I'm a little constrained right now to be able to speak how many consumers are there on our network. I dare say, because that's going to be declared any day, so I will not be able to share that. But really, I think we are, the pace at which we moved and at the pace at which we are moving and the customers are adopting our services, I'm humbled to say we are going to be up there in the top 2 very soon. As a result of what we've done, it's about how the whole industry moves. So as a result of what we've done or what we've introduced, there are friends of mine who come back and tell me, when I ask them, why aren't you shifting to Geo, man? Why are you still, using the other network? He says, but because of you, everybody's dropped their prices and everybody started to offer better services and everybody is going into that direction. Well, it's a happy thing so far as the end customers are concerned. So the entire industry, including the non-Geo customers, stand to benefit as a result of that. I think when you look back and you think about what happened, the industry was focused on recovering the investments from the legacy networks. And I think somewhere people forgot what was the purpose in the first place for the industry to be. The purpose was to connect people with each other, to connect them with the world, to connect them with information, to connect them with education, to connect them with entertainment, a whole lot more. So I think somewhere that got forgotten. So we started off with that basic premise, what is it that the customer is looking for? What is the customer experience that has to be disrupted? And with whatever we've done, I dare say, the best way to survive any kind of a disruption is to create one. And I think we successfully have managed to do that. And I will also say we are just starting. We are not going to be ending it here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that very crisp, yet a very insightful session there for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, with that, let the perspectives flow, because we're now about to move on to invite another very esteemed speaker here on the dais. He's somebody who leads sustainability at the Mahindra Group. And under his leadership, Mahindra Group has developed an award-winning sustainability framework and also become a founding member of the Carbon Pricing Leadership Coalition and the first to commit to doubling energy productivity. We have with us none other than Mr. Anirban Ghosh, the Chief Sustainability Officer at Mahindra Group. So please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Anirban Ghosh on the stage. Yes, sir. Let's have you on the stage. It's time to understand, in the form of our keynote address, on the impact of sustainability business model on the legacy and the incumbent brands. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Anirban Ghosh. Hello, sir.
Great.
Give me a second. Let me see if I can work this. Yes. All right. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When one meets people from the marketing fraternity, usually you think here are people who are having a great time doing fantastic work. And then you come and tell them, please use purpose to differentiate your brand. How many of you are saying, don't be lame, this won't work, are you crazy, nobody will buy my product? It's okay if you put your hands up. So why are we having this conversation at all today? There seem to be some strange things happening, which suggest that even if it doesn't work, or using purpose to drive a brand doesn't work today, it's likely to work in the future. And there's no better time to talk about it than at ET Best Brands, right? Why is it not a good time to talk about it? Let me tell you about a list which the Harvard Business Review brings out. It's called the Best CEO list. A very nice list. You had Jeff Bezos at the top for a very long time. And then one year, they introduced sustainability with 20% weightage as a way of evaluation. Boom, Bezos was at 76. And the CEO of Novo Nordisk was right on top. Can that happen with consumers as well? So, question is why? The first answer is that this strange bunch of people called millennials, you must have heard about them, these guys seem to want purpose in their lives. And one of the things they seem to get excited by is this whole business called climate action and sustainability and going green and being responsible and so on. When they join our group, many of them want to join businesses like renewable power, like waste to energy. They ask us, can we go to that business at some point in time, if not today? Now, these are not questions you would normally expect. So if this is an important target segment for you in the rest of your career, there is a possibility that using purpose to differentiate could work. But these are not the only people who are talking and thinking in this way. There's another bunch, and I believe they're called silvers. Some of us sort of are getting into silvers if we are not there already. And from your own social circles, you might find that, hey, these guys talk about being responsible as well. They're not really intent on destroying the world anymore. They may have done it when they were much younger, but they seem to be thinking differently too. So here are two target segments for you, millennials and silvers, one who have very high pester power and increasingly more money, and another who have loads of money, who feel that this is something which is worth doing. So maybe your brand could give it a shot. Gives you a chance to reboot the brand wherever it works. It may not work everywhere, but wherever it works. But green brands can work. You may be familiar with these already. Body Shop you'll see in every airport. Patagonia we don't see so much in India, but many of you travel, you may have seen the brand outside, and you may have read the case studies. I saw the brand Icebreaker Merino in San Francisco recently, clothing brand, a fan following almost like that of Harley Davidson. So if a brand can build something like that, I'm sure brand managers and people managing brands would be delighted. Existing brands are going green. If you've seen these ads, you would have noticed that even if it is not the main message, the message is creeping in. There are many millennials who choose to buy clothes at H&M because they can give their old clothes which can be recycled. My daughter is one of them. So this is obviously not something that is non-existent today. Existing brands, many of them are giving it a shot to see, hey, will this work for me in the future? Some of you went green too. Any of you bought LED lamps recently? When you bought your recent air conditioner, if any of you bought an air conditioner, did you prefer to buy one which was energy efficient? Did you choose to buy a refrigerator because energy efficient? So the concept is not only happening outside the room, clearly it has an effect inside the room as well. Here are some companies. DSM stands for Dutch State Mining. It was a mining company. Today it is nowhere near mining. It's completely transformed. It does chemicals that help climate action, that help reduce carbon footprint of individuals and businesses. Orgy, Orsted are businesses which were in fossil fuels, petrochemicals, which are now in renewable energies. So transformation happens even at the level of companies. Our company, you know, makes diesel-powered vehicles. I don't know if you know we've launched the best car in the world. An electric car, 0 to 100 in 2 seconds, 450 kilometers on one charge, 150 of them will be made. If you want one, you can tell me a little while later. But why are we into these kinds of things? The Mahindra Group, and I don't have time to tell you about all our businesses which are strong in the space of climate action, such as renewable energy, such as waste to energy, such as electric cars, such as micro-irrigation and so on. Why are we there? Because it appears that these portfolio of businesses have immense possibilities in the future. And those possibilities, the size of those industries are not in millions of dollars, they're in billions and trillions. If you are party to conversations in the climate change space, you will hear only numbers in trillions as the amount of money required to make an impact on climate going forward. Now that money will essentially come out of industry because the investments will have to get made, people will consume products which help enable climate action. This is why the Mahindra Group is choosing to move in that space. To guide us in our thinking on how to move the brand forward is this diagram called the sustainability framework. All I want you to do is focus on that green pillar right on top which says Grow Green Business. It is a clear path for the evolution of the brand in the future. Maybe our marketing folks will also figure out that, hey, just selling green products is not great enough. We can actually move the brand and speak to the consumer using purpose as a differentiator for the brand and sometimes as a differentiator for the product. Actually, when you were looking at the lists, that summary list which Shiv shared with you, I wonder which ones stayed with you. The one that stayed with me was good word of society. What will this good word be? Just like we've gone from quality, which was important at one time, to being taken for granted today, what do we think is important today when it comes to good word? What will it be tomorrow? And if the big problem that we are all trying to solve in the world is climate action or climate change, then why will the good word of society not be in this space? Think about it. Millennials, silvers, the biggest problem we face, the biggest opportunities in business, going forward, what will the good word of society be? If all of this adds up to the conclusion, use purpose to differentiate, and it helps you in your career to build value, well, so be it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And thank you indeed for sharing a very, very valuable point there, a valuable takeaway for all of us, Rise for Good. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to march ahead to our next segment of the program. And for this, I'd like to invite Sunita Quadros to please come on the stage. Please put your hands together once again for the Business Head and Senior Vice President, ET Edge, Sunita Quadros. Well, yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the evening where we will be felicitating one of the supreme Indian talent who's present over here with the title of the Sports Star of the Year. Please put your hands together for none other than Sania Mirza. Woo! I'm going to be requesting both of you to please remain on the stage. Before we get started with the first round of felicitations, firstly, I'd like to quickly invite on stage Mr. Apurv Kumar, who's the head content with ET Edge, to share a little view about the ET Best Brands Coffee Table book, wherein the brands are being featured. So if I may please quickly invite Apurv Kumar.
Thank you, Kavya. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin with the felicitations for today evening, I would just like to share our thoughts on this very important coffee table book. Currently in its second edition, the Economic Times Best Brands Coffee Table book is brought to you in association with our research partner, Nielsen. There are some key parameters that we look at when we are compiling the list or shortlisting a list of 500 brands, out of which the brands which agree to be a part of the coffee table book and who are present with us today will be receiving the felicitations. The key parameters that we look at in shortlisting these brands include quality, innovation, customer experience, being self-critical and ready to change, doing less but doing well, not afraid of challenges, being honest and ethical, and passion for customer and technology. A combination of all of these factors is what we believe make a best brand. I leave these thoughts to you, and I invite Kavya to please continue the proceedings. Thank you.
All right. Check, 1, 2. I know all of you are pretty curious to hear the voice of Sania Mirza. Can you all give me a head, like a big cheer? Even I am. And I think you won't believe, a lot of girls back there, we've all been waiting with bated breath, like, when is Sania coming? And the moment you entered, all the girls were like, oh my God. Imagine, it's the girls who actually go like, oh my God. So firstly, Sania, a very, very warm welcome to you. And the fact that you received this honor, it comes as no surprise because you're one such name who not just inspires women players, but players in general. But here comes a quick question. What is it that drives you to wake up every day, to get to that court, and to play your best? What is that driving force?
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for this honor. I think it's been a long time since I came into the limelight, so to say. I was maybe 16 years old, and I'm 32 now. I mean, you guys can Google it anyway, so I'll tell you. But I think that I came into the fray at a time when brands were solely associated, so to say, with cricketers. I think people didn't really understand that other sports people coming and becoming brands. And I was fortunate enough to be one of those people who happened to become a brand, at a very young age, which came with its price, but it was amazing. And I'm very happy so many years later to receive this award. So thank you very much for this honor. Coming back to your question as to what drives me, different things at different times. When I was young, I think just being young, drove me. The passion for the sport, the passion to play tennis, to be the best that I can be, to reach my goals, to be number one in the world, whatever it was. But today, I mean, I just had a baby a few months ago. So today, actually, he drives me and he inspires me to make other women and other girls who want to become, anything that they want to be, that when you have a baby, life doesn't end, it just begins. And no matter if you're playing a sport, and you need to just fight back, and you need to try and do that, which is what I'm trying to do. So hopefully, by August, I'll be playing again. So that's what drives me right now. Thank you. Yeah, and that's what I believe, that I would like to set an example of, saying that you can achieve anything as long as you want to.
Thank you so much. And on that note, I'm going to be requesting both of you to please remain on the stage as we get started with the first round of the felicitations. Ladies and gentlemen, please note it's time for the first round of the felicitations of the Best Brands 2019. So we shall be inviting the brands on the stage. And on that note, let's put all your curiosity to the end. And let's get started with the felicitations. First up, let's hear it for Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC. And with that, let's move on quickly to also honor the next in the list, the best brand, ladies and gentlemen. Well, let's hear it for Utterly Butterly, Amul. मतलब यहाँ पे ना अपलॉज जो है एकदम मक्खन जैसे निकलना चाहिए भाई एक और बार लेट्स डू इट वन मोर टाइम Moving on, let's make way for Amway. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. And let's hear it for the Best Brands 2019, Amway. Well, let's march ahead to felicitate the Best Brands. Well, up next is Anchor Health and Beauty Care. Well, moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let's keep that applause going and let's hear it for artistry. With that, while we do come to the end of the first round of felicitations, we'd like to thank Sania Mirza for her graceful and her beautiful presence here. Can we have a huge, huge round of applause? I'm having a fan moment while applause right now. Thank you so much and congratulations to you. I'd like to, however, request Sunita to please remain on the stage because, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to present another very, very esteemed honor, and this is the Fashion Designer of the Year. Ladies and gentlemen, the Fashion Designer of the Year, and let's hear it for none other than the very esteemed Abu Jani and Sandeep Khosla. A huge, huge round of applause there. Warm welcome, sir. We like the way it says Savage right behind there. I'm going to be requesting to remain on stage, so we'll take this trophy back and hand it over later, sir. But before we march ahead with the felicitations, a quick question there, sir. We can't let you go away just like that. We have the dynamic duo there. But I see back here, it's written as Savage. So if you can please show this to the audience. So it says Savage. But let's, yes. Can we have, come on, it's.
He's savage and I'm amazed.
So I'd like to know something. You know, the fact that you've had prolific years of work, contribution towards the fashion industry, what is it that keeps you going? I mean, both of you, the amount of smile, the amount of energy, I mean, it gives the run for money for people like me and the rest of the millennials. What is it that keeps you going, sir?
I think we're constantly inspired by various things that are happening around us, and we are immensely competitive with ourselves. So we have to keep ourselves reinvented. We have to keep ourselves reinvented, keep ourselves going, and be inspired always, guys. Work hard.
Be inspired, work hard. The whole point about reinventing yourself. Yes. That's beautifully said. Thank you so much. A huge round of applause one more time.
Thank you.
And I'd like to request you to please remain on the stage as we get started with the next round of felicitations. I also request Sunita to please join our presenters on the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we love the tempo of the evening. We love the momentum. So let's go on to invite our next name up in the list of the best brands. You know what? I'm going to just accelerate forward and say the name Audi India. Well, moving on, please put your hands together for Aviva Life Insurance. So let's march ahead, and now let's hear it for Bender India Private Limited. Bender India Private Limited. That's a long walk there for the team. So let's accompany it with a round of applause as well. We're talking about the best brands, and up next, let's hear it for Blue Star Limited. All right, moving on. All you movie fanatics, what are you waiting for? Let's hear it for Book My Show. They're already doing a Bhag Milka Bhag just because I said filmy. Book My Show. Ladies and gentlemen, Book My Show. Well, up next in the list of the best brands, let's move on and let's now felicitate Streaks. Well, as we move on to the next name in the best brands list, we need to have like an express round of applause because it is DTDC Express Limited. Zordar taaliyan ho jaye. Well, moving on, up next in the list of the best brands, it's time to now felicitate EID, Parry, India. Ladies and gentlemen, Parry's, and they've been making life sweeter since 1842. A sweet round of applause ho jaye. One more time, let's hear it for Parry, India. Well, up next in the list of the best brands, and let the applause continue as we now invite Flamingo. Team Flamingo. Well, let's move forward and let's also announce the next name. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Go Work. Go Work it is. Let's have the team here on the stage. Time to invite the next name on the best brands list. Ladies and gentlemen, Greenply Industries Limited. Marching ahead, it's time to invite the next name in the Best Brands 2019 list. Let's hear it for H&R Johnson India, division of Prism Johnson Limited. Let the applause continue as we now invite HDFC Home Loans. Well, let the felicitations continue as we now invite Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, HPE. Well, making it to the list of the best brands 2019, it's now time to hear it for H Energy. Energetic round of applause ho jaye. And let's hear it for the best brands 2019. Up next in the list, H Energy. Well, it's time for the next name in the list of the best brands 2019. Let's hear it for ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund. And the next name to be felicitated in the best brands list. Let's hear it for Incred. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Incred. And with that, we come to the end of another round of felicitations over here. So I'd like to thank Ahujani, Sandeep Khosla, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Can we have a fashionable round of applause for the dynamic duo? Thank you so much, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Well, I still request Sunita Quadros to please remain on the stage because the felicitations continue. Well, up next, joining us on the stage is a powerhouse of a talent. I mean, she has essayed so many roles in so many movies, and each and every character has been so unique, just the way her talent is. And I know all of you already have your guesses right, because she's right across here looking absolutely gorgeous and looking super powerful as well. I'd like to now invite on stage none other than the fantastic Richa Chadha. You know, we have a powerhouse of a talent because we have a powerhouse of brands that are about to be felicitated. So without any further delay, let the felicitations continue. But while we do that, check. I have a quick question for Richa. Hi, Richa, how are you doing?
How are you?
I have a quick question for you. Is that every role that you've essayed, every character that you've played on screen, every time you come across as a very, very powerful performer, what is going right behind that mind when you're performing it? What is the thought process?
So, I just really enjoy them. And I think that I want to humanize my characters as much as possible, whether it's a negative character or a positive character or a gray one. And yeah, motivations are very different to work in different films. But yeah, basically.
Thank you so much. And I think we're trying to understand from the point of view that we have so many brands who are seated here who come with a very entrepreneurial mindset. And the same applies even when you're approaching your character or the role in a film. That's right?
I hate to break it to you, but when you're outsiders, you don't have like a buffet that you can pick from. So you take what you get. It's more jugaad. If jugaad is an entrepreneurial word, or if that's the spirit. So you take what you get and you think, okay, how do I max my skill set here? How do I display the full range of emotions? Some films you do for the studio, to do a studio film. Some films you do for the paycheck. Some films you do for no money and just love. Yeah, so it's very different strategies for everything. Very flexible strategy. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you once again for joining us this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Richa Chadha. And with that, we're about to get started with the next round of felicitations. And here we go. Wow, this is amazing because the next brand to be felicitated, well, we have Richa Chadha here. But let's hear it for Inox Leisure. Moving on, we shall now invite the next name in the list of the best brands 2019. Well, it's now time to hear it for JCB India. Well, the next name featuring the list of the best brands 2019, Jean-Claude Beguin Salons and Spa. Incidentally, we also call that as JCB India. Well, hello, sir. How are you doing? It's so wonderful to have you here. Well, up next, we need a mazboot round of applause because the next brand to be felicitated is JK Sixer Cement. Ladies and gentlemen, J.K. Sixer Cement. Moving on, let's now invite the next name on the list, Kansai Nerulak. Well, moving on, let's now invite Legrand, India. Well, time to announce the next name in the list of Best Brands 2019. Please put your hands together for Link Legal Services. Well, let's march ahead and also invite the next name to be felicitated, the next brand to be felicitated. Well, let's hear it for Mahindra Mutual Fund. Moving on to the next name in the list of the Best Brands 2019, Mahindra Powerol. Yeah, powerful round of applause ho jaye. That's right, that's what we're talking about. Mahindra Powerol. Well, meanwhile, if you're enjoying the program, keep those tweets coming using hashtag #ETBestBrands. Meanwhile, let's invite the next name to be felicitated, Mama Earth. We totally love the sound of it. Well, up next, let's hear it from Max Bupa Health Insurance. Time to announce the next name in the Best Brands 2019 list. Well, let's hear it. All burger fans, let's hear it from McDonald's India. Time to invite the next brand, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Bector's Cremica. For some reason, we are still in a very food kind of category because our next brand to be felicitated is MTR Foods. Can we have a wonderful round of applause there? Let's hear it for MTR Foods. Well, the next name making it to the Best Brands 2019, all you shopaholics, let's hear it for Myntra. That also brings us to the next name in the Best Brands 2019. Let the tempo go on. Let's hear it for Nirali. Your kitchen solutions. Kitchen mein cooking, if it's like super number one, it's thanks to stainless steel kitchen sinks, Nirali. Well, up next on the list, let's hear it for Orient Electric. And time to continue with that applause because the next name is Park Avenue. Let's make way for the team of Park Avenue. Walking in style. And it's time to hear out the next name in the Best Brands 2019 list, PNB Housing Finance. Well, with that, we come to the end of another round of felicitations. So let's have a round of applause to thank Richa Chadha for her wonderful presence here. Thank you very much. I'm going to request you to please take your seat as well. I request Sunita as well to please join Richa and please take your seat. Well, if you're wondering what about the rest of the felicitations, please stay hold because before that, we're about to get some very, very esteemed speakers here on the stage and come together to indulge in a very, very quick but a very, very important panel discussion. So what we're going to do is give a quick makeover to the stage. While we do that, I also have a very important announcement, is to inform you that please do keep those tweets coming using hashtag #ETBestBrands because we have some wonderful hampers to be presented to all of you. And that's right. So we're going to pick probably the best tweets or, some very quirky tweets there, and we have some wonderful hampers to give away to all of you. So keep those tweets coming. You can probably post a selfie, a picture, or a tweet of your trophy, but do so using hashtag #ETBestBrands. We'd also like to thank our gifting partner, Soulflower, and our live webcast partner, Be Live. So yes, be rest assured because this is actually going live. Meanwhile, please keep those tweets coming. We're going to pick our Twitter contest winners shortly, probably after the panel discussion. So keep those tweets coming using hashtag #ETBestBrands. Now, spearheading this panel discussion for all of us, let me also set the theme for all of you. It's to do with old age wisdom or new age guile. What is it that makes a successful brand in current times? If that's a question, let's get our panelists to come together and answer them for us. Because our panel chair is none other than Mr. KV Sridhar, aka Pops, founder and chief creative officer of Hyper Collective. So he will be responsible in extracting all those insights from fellow panelists. So please put your hands together for the fantastic Mr. KV Sridhar. And let me quickly also invite all our panelists on the stage. We have with us Amer Jalil, who's the Group CCO and Chairman of Millen Lowe Lintas Group. A huge round of cheer there, ladies and gentlemen. I'd also like to invite Arvind RP, Director Marketing, McDonald's India, West and South. Dinesh Menon, Chief Marketing Officer with SBI. Mithun Sundar, Chief Revenue Officer and Chief Marketing Officer, Myntra. We have with us Perizad Zurabia, who's the Director and Chief Marketing Officer with the Zurabia Group of Companies. And Karan Shroff, who's the Head of Brand Marketing with Xiaomi. And with that, let's get the panel started, ladies and gentlemen. With that, sir, over to you.
Good evening. I think that we have got 10 minutes lesser time than they have given us. So we start with that. So we have half an hour. And this half an hour, I'm not going to introduce all the panelists because we have a huge panel. Maybe I'll take more than half an hour to talk about each individual because all of them are really, really successful guys. What am I going to do is set up the context and then I'll pass on the mic. Please introduce yourself and then proceed with your thoughts. The old age wisdom versus new age guile. What is relevant to build brands today? You know, the most abused phrase in advertising and marketing today is the legacy or the traditional brands, traditional agencies versus new age agencies and new age brands. Most abused ones. I believe brands are brands, innovation is innovation, and there are all kinds of companies, and then every company and every brand was relevant 30 years back, and then there are brands which are relevant for today's age. So I only think that there are brands which are relevant to consumers, or there are brands who are losing the relevance to the consumers as more apt in my view. In 1978, when I started advertising, when I launched a supercomputer called System 325 by ECAL, I was mesmerized as much as I am looking at AR interventions today. There is no difference in my excitement that day versus today. And then brands are no different, evolution will happen. And the other thing which I wanted to bring about is, because of my age, I sit with old brands and old people. And because of my profession, I interact with a lot of young people who are half of my age and then work with younger technologies. But what you really see is you have the bigger, older companies or brands accusing the younger companies as reckless people burning investors' money. They don't know how to build a brand. What they are building, what they are doing is only a transaction. These guys know how to do a transaction. They don't know how to build a brand. So that's one of the huge acquisition, all of you with your kind of brands, Xiaomi. Okay. So there is an acquisition on you. And at the same time, the younger brands accuse the older brands by saying that these guys are white elephants. And then they cannot transform themselves. They are not agile. They don't change. Still, they are hanging on to R&D departments while the world is moving on. They are missing opportunities. They are not going to be relevant. And then they use the traditional methods to really build their brands. So these are the two sides of the same coin, which is brands which are relevant to people today. So I would like to pass on the mic to each one of you to introduce yourself and then give your point of view. Are we missing anything and why it is important to acquire customers and then have customer intelligence, is on one side. Why it is important on the brand side to have an emotional relationship with people and then to command the price premium, not discounting your brand day, Wednesday sales, every hour sales to whatever. So what is the difference and what is your take on both of them? Let's start with Parizad.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Parizad Zurabian, and I work in my family business. It's called Zurabian Chicken. I hope every non-vegetarian out there is eating it. So I don't know whether I would categorize Zurabian as a new, young brand or an old brand, because my father's been running this business for the last 38 years. We launched our retail brand 8 years back. And we've managed to turn a company around that was debt-ridden and in the dumps with launching a younger, fresher version of ourselves. We launched a retail brand. And, when we look at our competitors who are these large giants, and they wonder how we managed to do it with very, very little money, with very, very few resources. But I think what got us to where we are and what will continue to take us forward is a very strong brand promise that's basically uncompromisable quality at an extremely competitive price. So we're not kind of, talking cheap at all, but we're not talking super expensive for quality. And we're a young company. We're a young team. We're very agile. We know how to work without money, right? And we're a company that makes profits, and that kind of is sustainable. So I have a lot of investors and equity funds coming to me saying, we want to invest in the brand. And I think a part of me doesn't want to get lost in that whole, spinning the number, business. And so, yes, as a company, we're small, but we're agile, we're young, we're innovative, and that's what keeps us going.
That's great. Young companies, perception is young companies don't make money, they only burn investors' money. You are burning your own money and you are making it. That's great news. Yeah.
My name is Dinesh. I manage marketing for SBI. And SBI, as all of you know, is a legacy brand. To Pops' point, I think the one word that I liked what you said is relevance. No matter if you are an old age brand or a new age brand, as long as you are relevant to the customer, you are a rocking brand. Now, what you do to be relevant is what makes the difference. So price discounting is not a long-term strategy for a brand to be built. So it all depends on what you want to do with your brand, and are you doing the right things to serve the brand's purpose. So my view is that new age thinking is required even for old age brands. So that's what I would say. So if you look at SBI, we are a blend of both. And we are an old age brand deploying new age thinking to be relevant. Otherwise, we will be witnessing a Nokia or a Kodak movement ourselves.
Great, you guys are bailing out Jet Airways, I believe. That's great, yeah.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arvind, head marketing at McDonald's. It's very important for brands, and McDonald's is an iconic brand. At its core, an authentic brand built on great storytelling over the years. Having said that, to remain relevant, personalization, consumer experience, those are extremely important pillars that the brand has been transforming on over a period of time and will continue to be transforming on. Because today the situation is so dynamic and consumer behavior is so fast changing. How can traditional brands, iconic brands, remain relevant? And from a toolkit perspective, how can we really use toolkits like personalization and deliver better convenience to our consumers? So how can iconic brands remain relevant in today's space using these new toolkits? I think that's very key for brands to remain relevant.
Wow, iconic brands and new toolkits. Wonderful. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Hello.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Amir Jalil. I represent Lintas, which, by the way, Economic Times should also recognize as a brand. We don't get any felicitation, nothing, man. Somebody please take note. And we are both an old age brand or an age-old brand, and we are a new age brand also. So, I mean, if you're giving awards to both categories, then we'll qualify for both categories. Pops, that was the plug. Pops, when he was telling us about this session that we have to do, speak on this. See, actually, I'm the only person here who can't pick a side, okay? Unfortunately, I have clients belonging to both sides of, age-old brands. We have brands that are soaps, okay? We have brands that are detergents. We have brands that are shampoo, toothpaste. And on the other hand, we have Xiaomi and Myntra and Flipkart and Google and every other sort of brand possible. I think what the simplest way to look at brands in these two categories that are there for the sake of this discussion is, I think innovation and technology is and has always been creating brands. And it's not a new thing. It's just that because of the pace of technological change that is happening today, that it feels like technology is creating brands very fast today, because innovation sort of disrupts, changes things, and therefore quickly those things become brands. But innovation and technology has been doing that as far as back as invention of and marketing of cars. So disruption in technology was happening then. But it's happening very, very fast now. So innovation, technology will do one disruption, make a brand for itself. I feel that at one point, there's always these cycles of change. And when there is, when there's this cycle, when we are at the end of the cycle, it always results in parity. Any product, any technology, anything always results in one cycle of parity. And when that cycle of parity happens is when, I guess, all the age-old or old-age techniques of brand building are then required. So I guess there's a place, for both to practice both kinds of wisdom. Guile and wisdom both. So that would be my take.
What a smart take. You will not lose any clients now. Yeah. Mithun.
Thanks, Pops. I don't know if it was planned that you made Xiaomi and Myntra sit on this side and then kept Amar in the middle and then planned it this way. You had this. Yeah, and Pops did that head nod as I walked in, so I knew I had to come this way. I think it was all planned. Introducing myself, my name is Mithun Sundar. I lead growth and marketing for Myntra.com and Jabong.com, both of which combined is the largest fashion retailer in this country now. Few different thoughts from what folks spoke about now. Number one, about the topic. I do think the topic itself is a bit of a red herring because brands have not changed. As Pops mentioned, there is just a question of whether a brand is relevant to a consumer or not relevant to a consumer. The way brands interact has changed. I wouldn't call one wisdom or guile. It's just the way you operate with brands has probably changed a little more in this world. Which brings me to number two, which is how has it changed? I've had the privilege of working with what we might traditionally call old age brands, like the detergent brands. I used to be with Levers at one time. I worked with Shiv at PepsiCo and seen some of what we might call older age brands. I think in the past, brands roughly used to be about the media, and now it's a little more about the idea. And what I mean by that is, today, the conversation is no longer one-to-many. It's not a brand communicating to all its consumers. It's much more a participation, ideation, dialogue, and a 2-3-way communication. So any brand which is successful in today's age gives space for people to be able to participate. For instance, even in the brand that I work with today at Myntra, we try and get consumers and some of our loyal consumers to come fashion their own clothes for us and then sell that as a line, as an example. And I know different brands, and it doesn't have to be an old age brand or a new age brand. Different brands, even in the consumer world today, tend to do a lot of these participation, ideation ideas. And I think that is a big shift that has happened, and that's the difference. Third, speaking about Myntra as a brand itself, because there were questions about, hey, what does it stand, is transaction versus brand building, what is the difference? We today look to tap into a consumer need that exists in this country. In this country, the younger generation is looking for help or a partner to fashion their identity as they grow to be the next urban, large country in this world. So there are urban trailblazers in India and aspiring urban trailblazers in India who are fashioning what the new India is. And if we are able to tap into that emotion, and being a fashion platform, if we can sort of tap into an emotion of helping fashion your identity, of which clothes is a large part and apparel is a large part, then we would have won the battle. At that point, we would have moved from transaction to really being an emotion. And I think that is the journey that this brand is trying to make. Just like, I would say, a similar journey, say, in a SBI, probably as old age as you might consider it to be, it is tapping into a different need for the Indian consumer, a different target segment. But eventually, it is all about tapping into that. And it's that idea, and not purely what media we work with. That's my take on the topic.
Hi, I'm Karan Shroff. I had the brand marketing for Xiaomi. I feel the new age guile is a very important way of looking at building a brand. If you look at, I'd like to talk about what Xiaomi did. When we came in, the only methods of marketing that we used was social media and our launch events. These were methods that we used to reach our core base. And then, of course, taking a leaf from what Mr. Sunilji said, disruption, creating that disruption in the smartphone industry. We had a philosophy, or we have a philosophy today, that is innovation for everyone. So we feel a brand needs to be friendly. It needs to be, always consumer savvy, always listening to the consumer. But at the same time, we don't need to spend huge marketing dollars when you step into a market. You can build it with your core base, listening to the consumers, figuring out what they want, and then taking the market, hopefully causing a disruption. And typically what we did was when we used social media, an interesting story would be when we came into the country, we launched Me 3, which was our first device. So we said we had 10,000 fans, or Me fans as we call them, on our social channels. So we said we'd bring 10,000 phones to India, hoping that at least each of them would buy one. And we sold out in a few seconds. So that led to word of mouth. That led to our fans talking to a lot of other consumers, a lot of positive reviews that came out, at the value at which we were offering products. And then we built our core brand philosophy, which is honest pricing, best specs at a great quality, like Perizat said. And I think with the consumer at the heart of everything, huge marketing dollars are probably not needed at an early stage for a business.
Yeah, great. I think it's a great example of bringing in relevance, honesty, which are values, and building a huge consumer base, and also selling through word of mouth. We were talking offline, talking about believer strategy, one of the oldest marketing strategy ever, that the people who have bought is, for what reason people who have bought is the only reason why the people who have not bought will also buy. So the amplification through consumers is a fantastic thing. Still, I just wanted to ask one question. Price premium, correct? You are giving a great product at a throwaway price. What is the future of companies like Apple, which charges for a 10 or a 8 plus, almost 1 lakh, and then there are buyers, and Apple is one of the most valuable and most profitable companies in the world. Why not? Unless the company is profitable, you cannot pump in more money in innovation. To innovate constantly and then to be on the edge, you always require funding, and then funding comes from people, and then you give it back to people. So what do you say about the Apple model versus your model?
So we have a very different business model. Our founder, LJ, says we're a unique species of a company. So we have a triathlon business model, which is new retail, basically. So we have our Me Homes, we have our e-commerce channel as me.com, and Me Stores, Me PPPs, and other channels that come in. We also have the hardware side of business, which is our smartphones, and then we also have the software side of business, which is MIUI. And then, of course, we have all IoT-enabled devices like Me TV, the air purifier, and a range of products that we eventually plan to bring in India. So I think our business model is very different. We're a very unique company that way. In terms of pricing, the difference, a significant difference, or I would speak of what Xiaomi stands, is our brand philosophy is innovation for everyone, which means we do not want to sell things at an exceptional high price. It should be affordable for the consumer. It should be at an honest price. So if a smartphone costs, let's say, 10,000, then we'd probably sell it at 10,000. We wouldn't want to sell it at a significantly higher price. And with that, it's not the only KSP. We also ensure that the quality is of the highest standards, highest attention to detail, and the best specs at that pricing. And I think that's what makes us different. That's what makes us disruptive. And that's what sets us aside from the rest. That's a strong belief that I have.
Thank you. This is one of the core things about a brand is sticking to your core values. And your values, and then the values which the consumers are seeking, where to overlap with each other, then you have a fantastic brand.
Yeah.
That's the mantra.
Yeah.
Coming to you, it's the ideas, not the media, correct? Which you spoke about. Your industry, fashion industry, now it has become far more affordable, and Manish Malhotra's fashion is trickling down. Earlier it used to take 6 years or 8 years from Karan Johar's movie to a small town guy, actually wearing the similar looking shirt, but you bridge the gap. You bridge the gap, and then same season, you see the same stuff, available for $600. Otherwise you go and then pay 5,000, 6,000. You made the fashion affordable, and you also offer huge discounts, 60% off, 50% off. At the end of the day, if somebody else gives the same product at lesser price than you, and Alibaba comes and gives because they are talking about 10 times more value than you, what do you think in that case, would be your value which can hold on to price premium or loyalty with your customers? Because they can run anywhere, whether it is even Hrithik Roshan's brand. People run away, if the price is not matched with 60% off, correct? Then how do you counter such things? Because it's a danger in e-commerce.
Yeah. See, number one, we don't need Alibaba to come here for the competition to be here. The competition is already here. We have large, horizontal players who play in many verticals, while we play only in fashion. So there is scale already there. So the competition already exists. It's been there. Myntra is now, I know people think of it as a new brand. Myntra is about 10 years old in this country. We celebrated the 10-year birthday of Myntra, about a few months back. So it's not a new brand. It has been around for a while. And
we should ask you some different questions about age-old brands.
I mean, I'm open to all questions, Amar. What do you say? Wisdom I won't give, but I can answer the question, though. See, here's how I see it. I think eventually a consumer connects with anything that they feel is an authentic brand. Authenticity matters. If Myntra stands for a certain experience, hey, come spend time on the platform and you will discover fashion. It may not be the place you go and search for a widget. Maybe you could do that too. But it's a place where you come and you browse and you eventually discover fashion, which you cannot do in a bunch of other places. And if you're really able to offer that experience, and I would, hopefully all of you have, if you haven't yet shopped, I know I have one new consumer, Parizad, you're shopping this evening for the first time. So if you haven't, you should try it. You will hopefully discover something new, and that is the aspiration that we aim to provide. As we do that, now that we've done about 10 years, we are happy to say that today an average fashion shopper on Myntra spends more, without quoting any numbers, spends more and at a higher price point and for the same brands at a different experience than, say, in some of the other comparable platforms outside in the country. And the reason they do it is because they're able to understand that, this offers a different experience. The experience is authentic. They stand for bringing the best in fashion at the right point with the right trend. They're always spot on. It's not a place which clutters you with too many images. It's a place which allows you to discover a new part of yours and hence links back to that positioning I spoke about, which was helping me fashion my identity. Now, if I can do it and be authentic while doing it, then they will pay for it. If not, like any other brand, I can't sell hope in a bottle.
Great. I think the lesson from what, as I understood, is today brands are equivalent to experience. And then you give a great experience to consumers, that's the biggest loyalty or equity which you can have with them. Gone are the days where you show soppy commercials, soppy stories make people cry, and then, oh my God, I must buy this umbrella, and then, things like that. Now experience is dictating, so experience is a great thing. And then the other, which I gathered, is the very strong purpose of the brand. It plays an active role in helping you to be fashionable by giving affordable fashion to people. As long as the brands which have got a purpose which can fulfill, all the brands which we are talking about, though, I'm grilling them with wrong questions just to extract something from them. But all these are successful brands, and then they have been successful because of this mantra. Amir, you have no excuse now.
Yeah.
You can't sit on the fence anymore. Talk about Lintas, Mool and Lintas as a brand.
Yeah.
There are a lot of brands which have changed, a lot of companies which have changed, brands have changed, the culture has changed, innovation has come in, and a lot of new things which are happening. People are using technology, people are using data, people are using a lot of other things. Now gone are the days of showing Salman Khan making a bungee jumping and then sell a cola. People...
Bungee in a ganji.
Yeah, I only did that, but people want to be in the center of the story. A story lived is better than a story told. And in this environment, what is that the advertising industry is doing to understand today's consumers, serve content the way they want, and what are you doing to make the consumers the center point of your communication rather than shorter version of commercials which are happening. I'm not just talking about Mullen, that was just a dig on you, but as an advertising industry, all the big advertising agencies, are they equipped to understand today's consumer? Are they equipped with a toolbox, as somebody said? Do you have a toolbox to really talk to today's consumer?
Sir, the only one thing that we have is understanding. We call ourselves a brand agency and a consumer agency. We never call ourselves a creative agency. Creative is just one thing that we use to, exercise our sort of power over consumer minds, how to attract them, how to, propose things to them. That's creativity. But we do everything only with understanding. Sir, you know that very well, right? We only get into people's heads. I often try to say that we implant viruses in people's head, right? To think of a brand in a certain way. And that's never going to change, right? I believe our greatest advantage as Lintas is always going to be this, what we call right now we are calling it age-old wisdom. Because what happens in Lintas is all these amazing marketers, all these amazing brands, they all come into our fold. They walk our corridors. We get to see all that they are doing, whether it's on this side or any side. And we learn from each and every one of them. And not only do we learn from them, but we are able to sort of, pass the knowledge of one to the other and the other to new to old, old to new and everything. So we always gain. And somehow in the gaining of that, we become richer in the experience, except that the fees are going down. So that way we are not getting very rich. But otherwise, we are in the happiest sort of position of all. I want to say the simplest thing possible in the case of, age-old wisdom and the new thing. See, I think for our kind of business, age-old wisdom is what we thrive on. New age, whatever the new age thing is, we can always acquire. So our belief is that, maintain the age-old thing within us, let it, foster as much as it can, and acquire whatever you want new age from outside.
Thank you. It was not just for Lintas. I was just talking about generally the industry. But I think, the basics needs to be strong. We all thrive on big data. And there is no one here who have not used the big data. But at the same time, we don't even use 12 to 15% of the data which we have. And then we do a lot of data mining and then bring in data insights. But what the traditional advertising agencies bring in is the human insights. Big data will tell you what people are doing, and it will never answer the motivation behind that, why they are doing what they are doing. That's a skill, which most of the agencies have, and then they need to preserve that. Otherwise, this world will turn into a McKinsey. Okay? So only one brain works, another part of the brain doesn't.
I was ex-McKinsey, just to be clear here.
No, I'm just... Yeah. Even they are getting into a lot of other things, that's a different matter. Right. But, that's what I have taken. And Lintas, far more than others, was the first agency in the country in late 70s, embraced television and then made unknown products as brands. It was the first agency which has actually virtually built all the brands. That wisdom should be intact.
E.T. take note.
Yeah. Yes, sir. You talked about iconic brands, and you talked about how experiences needs to be created. I've already spoken about experiences are equivalent to the perception of a brand. So McDonald's throughout the years, has transformed itself from being a family restaurant, especially for kids, weekends in the evening, to a round-the-clock restaurant today for almost everyone. The health, fad which has come in, the fitness fad, and McDonald's have really rediscovered themselves. Tell us about how iconic brands, brands of that stature, where every move can be dangerous. People may accept or reject. How did you manage the transition?
So transition, and we call it a transformation that has happened over the past few years, and this transformation is ongoing. At one end is personalization and improving consumer experience at our restaurants, and it's about, for example, we have what we call as experience of the future, where we have digital kiosks for ordering, where consumers can discover the menu and discover the depth of the menu by just engaging with a digital kiosk at our restaurants. We have introduced table service in our restaurants. All of this were unheard of some time back in the QSR context. The other aspect is the environmental aspect of consumer expectations evolving on food. So we have this whole good food story where we have introduced initiatives like cutting down on sodium, introducing whole wheat bun with our burgers as an option, and that journey continues. And the good food story is all about keeping up with the times and improving the menu as we speak over a period of time. At the heart, we are a value brand. And for us, value, and going back to the earlier conversation, very clearly it's not just about price. It's about outstanding experience. It's about great tasting food. And as long as the execution remains focused on those pillars, the relevance of the brand will remain and kind of be strong over a period of time. That's where the thinking comes from.
Yeah, relevance you spoke about.
Yeah.
And you also spoke about relevance is an important part of how old, does not matter how old the company is. State Bank is very old. It is part of 3 or 4 banks, coming together, forming State Bank of India after the independence. So it has legacy before independence also. But such a company, today, there is no one, does not matter whether you are a millionaire or you are a basic bank account holder with 10 rupees. People do not hesitate to approach your bank. It is not only one of those banks, which is widely, available and approachable by people, but most loved brand in the country. So, and technologically, which people may not be aware of, but they will be experiencing it, whether it is your Buddy or any of the products which you have created. Technologically, one of the first banks, and probably far more superior in terms of technological experience than most of the MNC banks are in India today. Still most of the boutique banks are catching up while you are implementing, some of the most amazing technological features into your product. So how a giant like this, which people say that elephants take time to turn, and then how did you turn at a pace of a rabbit, in a large room? So tell us something about the experience and agility of this bank to transform itself.
So, Pops, the banking industry has actually been slow to adopt to technology from a speed perspective, but they did realize that if they did not do it, they would probably be extinct. Fintech redefined that for everybody. And suddenly for a bank, fintech became competition. So, and for a brand like SBI, which is a huge legacy brand, we had two challenges. One is to adopt technology like fish to water, and secondly, to be relevant to the largest section of the population, which is the under 35 years old. So we've actually delivered services and continue to adopt technology very, very swiftly so that the younger audiences find the experience to be as delightful. So YONO, which is the latest platform that we've got, is a comprehensive platform that delivers more than just banking solutions, including shopping and lifestyle. So it goes to just say that if you are relevant and meaningful, people will take to you. So purely because of adoption of technology, we've stayed relevant, and we continue to be competitive at all times. Like you rightly said, people aren't aware as much as they should be, and that's why we are investing a lot of money in marketing and communication to tell people that we are as relevant as what you want us to be. So purely adoption of technology and agility is what has gotten to where we are today.
That's a great brand and great example. You guys are doing wonderful work. Very quickly, Parizad, I know, what is the secrets behind your successful chickens?
The secret behind our success, or my successful chickens, I think a brand promise, right? And living up to that. I think there's so much of clutter and so much of noise. Everyone's trying to say something. Everyone's kind of, trying to scream out loud, trying to get consumer, attention. But I think if your brand holds that promise, right? If your brand has the ability to be consistent and deliver every single thing they've promised, I think you get loyalty, and that's the secret of our success.
Thank you. I don't have much time to sum it up, but I'll just say it in one line. Use the old age principles and then create your own new age toolkit to move ahead. Thank you, guys. You can take the questions offline. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to request all the panelists to quickly come together for a group photograph. And I'm also going to urge all of you to connect with all of our speakers offline in case any further queries or understanding more insights. Thank you very much. It's gone already. You want to take on this mic?
I want to say thanks to this new age and old age brand called Pops. Please.
Thank you very much. I'll take the mic. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're quickly setting the stage for the next round of felicitations. While we do that, I also have the names of our Twitter contest winners. So if I may quickly invite them on the stage while we also give a quick makeover to the stage here. The ones who actually tweeted #ETBestBrands, who tweeted consistently and tweeted really well. I've got 3 names here. I'd like to invite Vijit Bhantia, Rashmi Kavre, and Dhirya Kajaria. If you're inside the hall, apart from your Twitter handles, let's have you show your faces to all of us. Busy tweeting, getting us trending. I'd like to invite Vijit Bhantia, Rashmi Kavre, and Dhirya Kajaria. We have some wonderful hampers by Wow Skin Sense, and I'd like to present them to you. I guess only one name heard it. The other 2 are still busy tweeting. Vijit Bhantia, Sarji, Sharma kyun rahe ho? Aaiye stage par. Let's have you on the stage as well. I got your name right. Vijit. Oh, so apparently Dhairya Kajaria is here. We have Rashmi Kavre. Lovely. Vijit, wherever you are, let's have you on stage as well. All right, and with that, it's time for our next round of the felicitations. Once again, I'd like to invite on stage Sunita Quadros to please come forward to do the honors. And may I also invite the lovely Richa Chadha. Let's have your presence once again on the stage. and their graceful presence shall be accompanied with a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so let's get started, and it's time to invite on stage as the Best Brand 2019, the next name up on the list. Let's hear it for Zarabian Foods. Woo! We have the beautiful Perizad herself here to receive the honor. Congratulations, ma'am. And with that, let's also move on to announce the next name in the Best Brands 2019, PNB MetLife. The next name of the brand, the Best Brand 2019, Ray Cooking Spray. Ray Cooking Spray. Let's have the team on the stage as well. Congratulations. Well, let's come together to felicitate the next name, Reliance Asset Reconstruction. Moving on, the next name, Reliance General Insurance. And with that, it's time to invite on stage Reliance Home Finance. Well, let's have the team on the stage, Reliance Home Finance. And with that, it's time to hear out for another very, very disruptive brand over here, Reliance Jio. Moving on, it's now time to have a round of applause for RelianceSmartMoney.com. RelianceSmartMoney.com. Let's have the team on the stage. Well, up next in the list of the best brands 2019, Repose Spring Mattresses. Well, let's have a round of cheer there. Let's have a round of applause for the next name, Signature Developers. We have Rohit Reddy here to receive the honor as well. Signature Developers, ladies and gentlemen. Moving on. Keep the applause going, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for Sleep Well. I know it says sleep well, but let the applause not sleep. Please, let's pack it with some punch. Come on. Louder and louder. Lovely there. We're marching ahead. It's time to felicitate SRL Diagnostics. We're keeping a healthy check in time for all of us, SRL Diagnostics. Well, moving on, what's the next name on the list of the best brands 2019? It's got to be State Bank of India. I see the applause coming from this row. How about the other row as well? Everyone together, State Bank of India. Moving on, it's now time to also invite on stage Sundaram Mutual. Congratulations, and let's move on to also invite the next name in the list, Talonmark Developers Private Limited. A round of applause there, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for all the best brands 2019. And now let's invite on stage the next name in the Best Brands 2019, Tata Sampann. Tata Sampann. The complete team is over here. They say teamwork makes the dream work. एक round of applause हो जाए यार. Fully fantabulous team over here. Tata Sampann. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the final round of felicitations. So let's hold on to that applause and let's hear it for the Vadwa Group. Moving on, it's time to invite the next name in the Best Brands list, Tirupati Cottonseed Oil. Well, let's now hear it for Balmoral Lubricants. Ladies and gentlemen, the next name in the Best Brands 2019, Balmoral Lubricants. And time to hear it for LIC Housing Finance Limited. Ladies and gentlemen, the next name in the Best Brands 2019, LIC Housing Finance Limited. We have a lot of Entu cutlets over here who are cheering for them. How about the ones who are seated right ahead? Ek baar zordar taaliyan ho jaye. Let's hear it. And moving on, let's now invite TransAsia Biomedicals Limited. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for TransAsia Biomedicals Limited. Let me remind you all, we are inching closer and closer towards the end. So the next name to be invited to be felicitated is SBI Life Insurance. SBI Life Insurance, ladies and gentlemen. And now let's hear it for GoDaddy. And ladies and gentlemen, it's also time to hear it for Wow Skin Science. As the next name in the Best Brands 2019, can we have a round of applause? Wow Skin Science. Ek wow round of applause ho jaya. What are we waiting for? Like I said, we're inching closer and closer. So let's make it wow. Moving on, let's felicitate the next name in the Best Brands 2019, Yokogawa India Limited. That's in fact the penultimate felicitation. So these are the last two felicitations, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a round of applause. Let's hear it for Yokogawa India Limited. And the final name for the evening to be felicitated in the Best Brands 2019, please do put your hands together for WebWorks India Private Limited. And with that, we come to the end of the felicitations. Let's have one final round of applause, and let's hear it for Richa Chadda and Sunita Quadros. Thank you so much to the beautiful ladies for doing the honors. Thank you once again. Thank you. I'm going to request you to please take the seats. And what are we waiting for? It's time to party, isn't it? It's time to carry forward our conversations, our celebrations over dinner. That's right. So with that, we do come to the end of another fantastic edition of the Best Brands 2019. If you all had a mighty good time, can we have a round of applause for all of you, all the best brands this evening as well? And we look forward to seeing you in our next edition as well. Thank you so much. Have a great evening and have a great weekend.